One team, one podcast back. Super regional episode here with my guy, Patrick Michelson. How are you doing, Pat?
Good, buddy. What's happening today?
Not too much, man.
Yeah.
Work day, middle of the week. It's Zion Williamson day. It's just nuts out there, just wildness. And I'm
Yeah.
walking around the halls like, you hear about Zion Williamson?
Yeah,
One of
dude.
those kind of days. This is a
Yeah.
weird day. You had 2 days in a row. It was like PGA, Live, and now today's just Zion Williamson.
So I went to maybe the last live golf event in Tulsa about 3 weeks ago,
I heard
and
they're fantastic.
they're absolutely amazing. I mean, it is everything the PGA wasn't. It was music and food and
Like the
drinks, and
waste management every week.
it is 3 days of the waste management. Absolutely, absolutely. But as we know with the news yesterday, that might be. It's also was affordable. You know, we had a box right
Mm,
there on the 18th. I mean, it was. You know, couldn't have done that at the Masters kind of deal, right?
mhm.
But that is probably because I had a buddy whose country club it was at Tulsa, Cedar Oaks, where they played it in Tulsa. So man, we had my buddy actually Brooks Koepka was in his locker, which was really cool for him.
Wow,
Left him some cool shit, so that
that's
was fun.
awesome.
Yeah, that was cool, man.
Yeah, I
But
don't know how that's gonna shake out.
I don't know.
I hadn't really thought about it too much, but everybody's like concerned that the Saudis own PGA now, and I'm like, they own so much more than you realize. So
And
it's
what they don't own, they can buy.
exactly. So if they want it, they're probably gonna get it.
They're probably going to get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The funniest thing I heard about that was Dave Portnoy. He was talking to somebody about like, if they came to me and they were like, Dave, we want you to move Barstool Sports to Saudi Arabia, and here's $10 million to do it. And he's like, you know what? You guys are shady. I don't really trust where your money's coming from. It's terrorism, blah 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 blah. And he's like, but if it was like $200 million, I'm gone. And
Yeah,
like
right. Exactly. Yeah.
it's not that bad. Like
Yeah. It's probably just all rumor. Yeah, it's all
right,
made up.
exactly.
Yeah,
A lot of
exactly.
super regional talk today, but first, we appreciate Patrick coming on. Patrick's old school baseball head, just like me. You're a travel ball dad as well,
Yeah,
so
travel ball dad.
we've had you on a few times talking about some travel ball stories. But I wanted to bring you on because I know we're going to talk a lot about super regionals, and maybe some history of or some past moments that we remember. But also, you're a big sponsor of the show, so we appreciate you coming on. But Bank of England Mortgage, tell us about Bank of England.
Man, we are still lending money, regardless of what everybody says and thinks. I know rates are not where they have been the past 3 years, but we're still out there. There's still a huge demand of people that want to buy. We need inventory, honestly. If you've been out there, there's just not homes for sale because people are unwilling to let go of that low rate that they've had in the years past. But we think rates are going to start heading back down in the fourth quarter, the third, fourth quarter, and so we have programs right now that can get people into homes like a buy down that you don't have to pay 6.5 the first year. You could pay 4.5 the first year, then 5.5 the year after that.
And then refinance, hopefully,
100%.
whenever rates go back down.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So there's still things that can be done. We think it's going to start the summer season to kick back up. So we're excited still, man.
Good. We
Yeah.
appreciate your sponsorship. Give him a call. What is it? 810-1805. You can talk to Patrick. And also tell people all the time, just go to your website. You can either apply online, and then you guys are going to call them and figure out the best product for them at that point.
That's it. That's it,
Yep.
man. Happy to
So,
do it. Yeah.
also another sponsor, and you know this guy very well, Lucas Ragusa, River
Oh,
City's Total
Ragu.
Maintenance. Yeah, NOLA-AC.com in the North Shore, New Orleans area out in Harahan. They can handle anything from your AC, heater, plumbing, and electrical as well. So 504-841-3300. Lucas is a great, great partner of the show. We're going to have him on for some football episodes here coming up soon in the fall.
That's awesome.
Bocock Brothers Cigars, #BeCocky. BocockBrothers.com. Great guys out of the Houston area, but they're LSU grads. Go check them out at BocockBrothers.com. You can see they have some golf gear as well. So pull up all their stuff. And then a little venture of mine, OTOP Design. So that's ontopdesignbr@gmail.com. Logo design, video editing, social media management. I'm just finding more and more people are asking me to do things because I've learned how to do it myself. So I can help you out with all that kind of stuff, video editing, social media for sure. Learn how to do TikTok. So I've been doing that, make money on it. And it's like, I got to just keep doing it, I guess. Like I wasn't planning
Oh,
on doing this, but here we are until until the United States bans TikTok, I'll be on there. So
That's right.
doing that as well. All right, so lots of regional talk today, and you were at which did you go to all the games? All three LSU games this
I
past
went. I
weekend?
went to. I went to two. I went to the first one, and I went to the last one
Okay.
on Monday. Yeah, I sure did. I
How
sure
was
did.
the atmosphere on the?
You
I know
know,
the
for
last
2 p.
one.
Yeah, for 2 p.m. on a Monday. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so funny. A couple days ago, I was kind of looking through the LSU sports website, and it's so inclusive that it actually gives you weather statistics. And if you go back to the years and look at LSU's postseason activity, man, rain has affected
Oh,
LSU.
all the
That's
time.
it all the time, right? I mean, I remember as a kid the old box, them pulling the Acadian ambulance helicopter over the outfield to try to dry it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, that
You know,
was a
I
Skip
mean,
Urban move.
absolutely, that's a good move, right? So, I mean, it is. You got to kind of wonder about ESPN when they're going to figure out that like the 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. slot. That's not a Baton Rouge slot, man.
Mm-mm. No.
Let's go at 11 a.m. and see if we can't get it done by 5.
Hey man, I don't ever remember um, another super regional or a regional where we were so worried about burning a start like what we are with Skeens. Even
Yeah,
with Aaron Nola, and I think we're going
yeah,
to talk about Aaron Nola in a little bit, but even with him, I just don't remember us being so dependent on this guy
mhm,
to make sure that we don't waste him in a rain delay.
yeah.
And the weather report for the last 2 days that I've looked at for this coming weekend has changed both days, like in a matter of hours. Where I was seeing rain Saturday and Sunday, and now I'm seeing blue skies. Maybe Friday you have some rain, and it's like I know this is going to change like a million times
Yeah.
between now and Saturday. So
Yeah.
who
What do
knows?
they say in Louisiana? If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. Yeah,
Exactly.
it'll change. Yeah.
I mean, it was literally clear skies, and we were
Yeah.
having lightning delays. It was
Oh yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It was
um,
wild.
yeah, and I know the atmosphere is still great this weekend. It was just you knew it could have been better, right?
Yeah. You saw, so I talked to some Oregon State fans. I was actually sitting like right on the top of the dugout when I walked up. There were 4 or 5 Oregon State fans here, and I was like, nothing wrong with a little Monday, just kind of making conversation. Where they're like, this is unbelievable. Like the fact that
Yeah,
we had 8,000 9,000 fans there for a Monday at 2 p.m. They're like, what do you people do?
exactly.
It's regional season. Yeah, we come to baseball games. Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
they're no slouch either. I mean, we've seen
no,
them and their supers or whatever, and they
absolutely,
they do well. But yeah, I'm sure on a
absolutely.
Monday, they're people are like, we got stuff to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Kentucky coming in, and did you go to any Kentucky games for the series this year? I know it was pretty heated,
I
actually.
was out of town on a baseball trip of my own for with my
Okay.
son, but yeah, they're an interesting team. It's so funny. They're gonna at least pitching wise look completely different coming in than they
Mhm.
did. I mean, I was going through their stats earlier. Not until the 8th week of the SEC season did their Friday night guy go twice in a row. Basically, they had a different pitcher every first game for the first 7 weeks of the SEC season until the 8th, and they've pretty much settled in with, I guess, the guy that's going to throw on Friday night, who is the Tyler or the
Yeah, and he threw Friday night against us, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
felt like they were still pitching off a little bit, where they were going to throw their real guy on Saturday. But it sounds like that's what they've been doing anyway.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see if that's who goes. But man, they have been just all over the map pitching wise. They have a lot of guys that can give them a lot of innings. They ERA is not terrible. I mean, they strike out double what they walk. I mean, what I found interesting when I knew LSU had this regional one against Oregon State was they came down here minus their top 2 starters. We all knew
Hmm.
that, right?
Yeah,
But when they got deep into Oregon State's bullpen, LSU is so dependent upon um, Paul Skeens, I think, because offense it is a juggernaut, but it sometimes it feels like you can just kind of mumble through about 5 or 6 innings. And we don't do much in the runners and scoring position thing that they've been going through. That's tough. But when we get into their bullpen, like when they were going, 1 inning here, 1 inning there, when it is subpar SEC pitching, we're gonna we're gonna set records.
yeah.
But you get a guy that can come in and get them off balance. We've seen them kind of struggle to score. So That first game, yeah, we know Skeens is going to be Skeens. We've got a sample size, right? He's going to be Skeens.
Mhm.
But if I am Kentucky and they don't play the power game. They've got one guy with double-digit home runs, right?
Right. They're gonna
So
run
I
them.
wouldn't be I wouldn't be surprised to watch them come in here and bunt and run. And if they
Mhm.
can get Skeens out of the game in the sixth or seventh, down, like I said, down 4-2, I think they feel great about that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
It wouldn't surprise me that if they can get the leadoff on, if they don't bunt him over quite often just to try to scratch, if they can get one or two here or there, because you're not going to have a big inning against Skeens. You're just not.
right.
So, I think the first game, while, people talk about pitching off, I think they're going to come just try to do what we've seen several teams do and just hang in there against Skeens and have a chance once you get them out of there.
Yeah, and you mentioned the running game a little bit for them because I think they have 91 steals or something like that
Uh
on the
huh.
year.
Yeah.
A lot of people have thrown this out there this week, and I'm not one of them, but to use Alex Milazzo a little bit more as at the catcher position, just to
Yeah.
limit the running game a little bit. I'm not one of them because
No.
Travinsky, you cannot move
Can't
him
take it out of
out of
running.
where he's at
Yeah.
right now. And
Yeah.
if you move him to DH, you got a whole issue. Honestly, to me, Alex Milazzo is an automatic out at this point too. So
Agree.
I just don't think he's worth it. And I think I actually saw a couple good defensive plays from Travinsky this last weekend that
Yeah.
makes me a little bit more positive on that. But you kind of just take the good with the bad at that point. I mean, he's just too good of a player. He's batting what 430. Like, come
Yeah.
on,
He's killing the
like
ball right now. Yeah.
um,
You don't mess with that. You know how baseball players are and streaks are and whatnot. When you're riding a horse like that, you don't interfere. I mean, obviously you give up a little but I think what you're getting with him, protecting White,
yeah,
protecting Cruz, you can't trade. Jay's not going to trade that. He's just
no.
not. That's not what kind of coach he is.
And I was a little bit of a victim of the moment of I think it was after the third inning against Oregon State the other day on the
Yeah.
Monday where we looked like crap. Like first three
Yeah.
innings, our order that guy mowed us down,
Yeah. That
and
was
we were
concerning.
our 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 at bats looked horrendous. Like we just
Uh-huh.
weren't feeling it at all. And I think I tweeted something out. I was like, man, if we're gonna be like the biggest baddest lineup ever, like we gotta have to like show up in moments like this. Like this guy looks
Yeah.
like Nolan Ryan against us. And
Yeah.
sure enough, right after that, it was clear sailing. So we
Yeah.
actually turned it right on. It was like a switch,
Yeah.
and it's very contagious with this lineup.
Yeah.
And they obviously it's extra base hits for the most part. There's not a lot of singles hitters
That's right.
in the lineup. But if a guy like Trey Morgan starts hitting, I think right in the middle of those power guys, if he can start getting hot again,
Yep.
and it looked like he was about to break out a little
Yeah.
bit. I think he had a couple of really good at bats and then bad luck.
Yeah, so I was where you were with Trevent. I was there with Morgan before Monday. Was getting like I don't remember the last time he had given us a quality at bat in a meaningful situation. It's kind of
Yeah.
like you're up 8-0 in the bottom of the ninth. He's gonna slap something. But
Mm.
man, there had been a lot of pop ups and weak contact for a while. Monday he hit the ball well. I mean, he got unlucky first time, hit just a rope to left field, got out. But
Hmm.
it was good to see him start swinging the bat. The guys that I think are the two key guys for LSU to make a run, because we know what Cruz is, we know what Tommy White is, we've
Sure.
seen what Hayden Travinsky, Gavin Dugas, and Trey Morgan. Those two guys,
I'll add
if they
one
can
more.
swing the stick, go ahead.
I'll add one more. Josh Pearson.
Oh yeah, that's been a great
Josh
addition. That's
Josh
been a great addition.
Pearson
Yeah,
at the 9 hole, basically as a
over.
second leadoff guy in front of Dylan Cruz is everything to me. The way that Dylan Cruz, can hit, if you got to get guys on base for this guy, and that's why I hated Alex Milazzo in the 9 hole. Hated it
Yeah,
because I was
yep,
like, this guy's just an automatic out at this point. I mean,
yep.
he's a great defensive player. Don't get me wrong, but like, come on, it's not worth it for you to have Dylan Cruz with nobody on base every single time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it was tough to see Cruz in that leadoff spot with nobody behind him. I mean, I wasn't even an advocate when that was going on. I'm with you. I was an advocate of putting someone like Pearson at leadoff, pushing
Yeah.
Cruz back, and moving Morgan down. Honestly, at some
Or
point. But
like I loved the Dugas whenever Dugas was actually on before he got
yeah,
hurt.
before
I
he got
loved
hurt.
him at the leadoff hole at leadoff position, but I also wouldn't mind at some point. I mean, it's too late now, but Trey Morgan being at a leadoff
Yeah,
instead of a guy like it. See some more pitches. He's
yeah,
got a good eye. He's got good contact. I don't know.
yeah,
It's too late now, obviously, but
sure.
anyway, all right. So super regional lineup. I wanted to show you this a little bit too. We got our lineup here. Do you have any like sleeper picks for College World Series? Have you been watching enough of it?
I have watched a bunch of it,
I have
and
too.
let me tell you who. Let me tell you who's real in this. When you're gonna, Oral
I,
Roberts is not
I
a
I have
bad
one
baseball
too.
team.
I have one
Yeah,
too. But go ahead.
uh-huh. Oral Roberts is not a bad baseball team at all.
No, yeah, they've always been good.
They've always been good, but they this year have they kind of ran through their conference just, I mean, over and above. They were in another on another level than their conference this year. So I think that could be one that you could see slip in because I'm not sure how good Oregon is. You
Yeah,
know,
me either.
I'm not sure. I mean, the Pac-12 was okay. I'm not sure how good they are. And I know that Texas is dangerous if they
Yeah.
Texas has got the pitching
Yep.
to beat anybody 2 out of 3 games.
I agree
Anybody.
with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I see Wake Forest hammering
Yeah.
Alabama. I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Texas there. I like LSU. I like Tennessee. Um, I hate to like Tennessee in anything, but I like
Mhm.
Tennessee there. All right,
Yeah.
the team on the other side of the bracket that I'm just thinking is primed to make a run all the way
Yeah.
is TCU.
Yeah. I was gonna say that. They hammered Arkansas.
I
They went to
mean,
Fayetteville and just beat them like a rented mule.
like, I mean, they hit against the guys that we could not hit, and they
They ran
scored
Hagen Smith. Yeah, they ran Hagen Smith in an inning and a half or something like
Yeah,
that.
it looks
Yeah.
that looks like a freight train right now. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I love to look at these and maybe think about some prediction. You never know. Like sometimes these, like you could see, and then I say all that, and then Indiana State wins or something, some crap like
Right.
that. It happens
Eh.
every year.
Or
Okay,
Indiana
so
State, get a regional and you can't even
yeah,
host it. But
what a joke that was. I mean,
I
I
mean,
get it. I understand. The Special Olympics was scheduled in there. They couldn't have made any kind of arrangements for this, or
uh,
like did the NCAA know this that they were going to be an NCAA top seed and can't host?
right. Yeah. Did they even look at the potential that they could come
Yeah,
out of their own regional and not be able to host a super? Like, yeah, that's
I
a
would
great point.
assume that I assume
Yeah.
that was all communicated because it was like
Yeah.
right after they got announced, the
Yeah.
statement came out from Indiana State like, I'm sorry, we can't do it.
Yeah. At the point you're a one seed, you got to think that there's a possibility they could host a super.
That's I've never seen that before.
And the
I don't.
Special Olympics had to have been on the books. I'm saying probably for a year now, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's this is. I mean, we talked about the Lexington regional last week, but like this is also an issue. Like the
Yeah.
Lexington regional that's I've never been to that concert. I didn't even know that existed in Lexington. That the big thing, but that's a wild story too. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um, okay,
It
so
just shows you where baseball stands some places as opposed
yeah,
to us not being able to even
we
fathom.
can't even. I know we can't even like
Right.
figure that out. Like, how
Yeah.
does that? Not,
Yeah.
how does this stuff like this happen?
How
Especially in
is anything?
Lexington.
Yeah.
Lexington is not a small town. Like,
Yeah.
there are places to stay in Lexington. You got to be kidding
Right.
me that this happened.
Right. Right.
Indiana State, I could kind of understand, but
Sure.
okay. So regional talk. I wanted to talk about like some old school regional memories. We're
Hmm.
going to be talking about that a lot more on this podcast. I mentioned that a few weeks ago. Going to start transitioning into some more history of LSU talk.
Yeah.
It's stuff that I love to talk about. I think a lot of people do like to hear about these things, but maybe some memories for and of course, with it being in the supers right now, either super regional memories or regional memories. And I know you had a couple that we kind of chatted about earlier. Anything that immediately just comes to your mind when you think about LSU regionals and in the past?
Well, I mean, if I want to go way back, I could go all the way back to '91, and
Yeah.
it was back when we had the old 8 team regionals. Right, there was no
Yes.
super, and it
Right.
was you played it out over 4 or 5 days, and it was a great event that you really had to be able to string some pitching together back then because there's a
Yes.
possibility you play 6, 7 games. Right. But what I remember the most about the '91 team is that was obviously the year we won our first national championship,
Hmm.
and I was on the fence on the third base side at the old box. and one of the field maintenance guys was standing there waiting. He said, "Look, if a foul ball comes down here, lean over and reach your hat." And I mean, 3 minutes later, Gary Email turns on one, and just that's a name people remember. Turns
Yeah.
on one, slaps it foul, comes down. I go down with the hat, I get it, and he told me, he said, "Find me after the game." He said, "I'm gonna get everybody to sign it." I still have that ball. It's really
Oh,
cool.
that's
Lon
awesome.
Moton, Tookie Johnson, Gary Email, Rick Green, Chris Mook, that whole Armando Rios, that whole
Yeah.
squad from '91. So
Wow, that's awesome.
that's going way back. That's dipping way back. But then when you talk supers, the two that stand out to me are one that we won and one that we lost. The one that we
Mhm.
won was Irvine, the last one in the old box,
Yeah.
2008, right?
8. Yeah.
Um, it was the first thing that stood out was the game that we played on the Friday night, which was the first game. There was a call that would have never happened nowadays because it's maybe the worst blown call in the history of LSU baseball. It was a pickoff play at second. Our guy gets his foot back in there,
Mhm.
and the ump is so surprised. When I say pickoff, it was a hidden ball trick. They ran the hidden ball trick.
Yes, right.
Guy was off the mound. Guy was off the rubber.
Right.
And they come in, but our guy on second, I mean, I should know who it was, sees it and gets his foot back in. I mean, well ahead. Second base umpire doesn't see it. Irvine shortstop does a fantastic job, sells it hard,
Right.
and the ump imagines what happens and calls him. Turtle Thomas runs a 4-2 on the first base line over there. I mean, slams his hat, jumps up face to face. Ump throws him out. How Maneri didn't get thrown out, I have no clue. How he could come out and deal with that. But I mean, Thomas gets thrown out immediately. And I mean, it was one of those where they kept showing it on the screen, and it was so obvious. And the guys on ESPN were like, "Oh wow, yeah, he blew that one." I mean, that's just a missed call. I mean, it really was. So we lose that game,
Mhm.
and the next day was the largest realm of emotions I've ever been through at Alex Box. We come out and we look like that call was like the linchpin of the whole super regional. We're getting just crushed. Okay. We're down 8 runs in the 7th inning. Game's over, right?
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, it was just like, because that was it at the old box. Like that was
That was
going to
it.
be
That was
that
the
was it for the
last.
old box.
Yeah.
Right. That was the last game. Like something just started magically happening. And you watched not so much it hit LSU, you watched it hit Irvine.
Mhm.
At one point, so we score 3 in the 8th, I think, and 5 in the 9th to go up 9-7. But at one point during that rally, literally, I thought the third base bleachers were going to come down. That is the most intense baseball atmosphere I have ever been in my life. And you could see the UC Irvine players. There's a thing in baseball, and I've been in games like this when I've been playing where it starts to tighten up. Like it seems
Mhm.
like it's the loneliest place on the world. And you saw the pitcher and you saw them start pressing and pressing. And as they did, it just was contagion. It was like there was blood in the water. And
Right.
I mean, it was absolutely just a magical comeback. I remember Wally Pontiff, Nick Pontiff, even
Yeah.
uh, he got the base hit that scored the tying run. And that place was just fanatic. It was absolutely insane. So we win that game. Not as and I mean, I literally I can't believe I stayed. I've never really left the game early, but I thought that series was over. We go from that to the next day, and UC Irvine was a broken team. They were a
Yeah.
broken team. I mean,
Right.
that broke them. We beat them 21-7. We hit like 8 home runs.
Mhm.
I mean, it was just an absolute. I mean, I think we scored 10 runs in the first 2 innings. I mean, it was an absolute just football game. And that's the way we sent the old box out. So that was really cool. But to go from the feeling that I had in the 7th inning the day before of sure defeat
Mhm.
to watching UC Irvine just blow it to the next day, like from about the third pitch of the ball game, it was over. I mean, it was over quick. UC
And
Irvine was broken.
that team, and so in a little bit of like past a couple of years before that, that was like Maneri's second year. So
Mm-hmm.
he, in '06 we didn't even make the tournament. '07 he just kind of like turning things around. In '08
Yeah.
we were actually, I think I did a podcast about this a few weeks ago where it was like I think we were 16-13 in the middle of the
Mm-hmm.
season.
Mhm.
We had lost a few SEC series in a row, and then all of a sudden, like bulb went off, and we won
Yeah.
23 in a row.
Yeah.
And we go all the way to that. The first Irvine game that we lost was the first game that we had lost in 24 games,
Yeah.
and that year seemed like we just kept coming back on teams, and there was something
Yeah.
going on. It was very magical. It felt like we did it
Yep.
again in the College World Series. If you remember, I think we beat Rice. Blake Dean hit a triple or something to win the game.
Yeah.
So it was very, and then it all sets up for like the next year. So in
Yeah.
'09.
Right.
But
Right.
I remember that series so well, and it was just very like perfect for like the close of Alex Box, like
Yeah.
the old Alex Box.
There's a great for anybody that's too young or whatnot that listens to this. There is a 3-part series or on YouTube of that comeback, like part 1, part 2, part 3. You can go watch, and it's pretty
Hmm.
cool. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool. I mean, because you can tell the camera starts shaking at several
yeah,
points because it's so loud in
yeah.
there.
And
It was
I
a
don't think people realize the difference. Some of the younger people, I should say, don't realize
yeah,
the difference in the old box and the new box.
yeah,
It's just a little different. And
yeah. Don't get me started on the
I know,
stadium,
and I know a lot of
on
people.
the arms race in the stadiums in the SEC because
I,
you know my opinion. We're nowhere close. You know.
No, we're not. And I think it's still down on the totem pole of like things to change at LSU. I think the PMAC is the next thing, but yeah, something's got to have to change to make it a little bit the atmosphere a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it's still great though. That's the thing. It's still great,
Oh
but it's just
yeah.
not the greatest. Like it's
It's
supposed to
not.
be the greatest.
It's not Baum Walker. It's
No,
not even Swayze. It's not. It's certainly not Duty
Duty
Noble.
Noble. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it. They tried too much to emulate the old box, and they lost some
Hmm.
charm on along the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it feels a little.
it feels like a
Um,
minor league baseball stadium.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's perfect, or a
feel
little
like I'm in playing
generic.
Double A in Topeka. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right. So I have one on memory.
Sure.
This would be in 2013, and
Okay.
it came down. It was the Oklahoma series, and
Hmm.
it came down to um, Aaron Nola versus Jonathan Gray. Jonathan
Yeah.
Gray was just a complete stud
Yeah.
of a pitcher, and Aaron Nola was Aaron Nola. So, but
Yeah.
it was two pitchers that we had seen that we hadn't seen like pitch against each other very often. Where you have two real aces. And I went back and looked at the stats of these guys before the podcast today, and like Jonathan Gray had 147 strikeouts on the year. Aaron Nola had 138. And it's but seeing these two guys face off against each other, you just don't see very often in college baseball. And if you
Right.
do, it's maybe like game one of the College World Series and something like that.
Right. Right.
Still, even then, I just don't see it that often where it's like these are two guys that are like top 5 picks in the draft, going up
Hmm.
against each other.
Right.
In retrespect, I'm thinking about Skeens. Like Skeens is what he's got 175 strikeouts, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like it would be like Skeens against the Wake Forest stud or whatever it
Yeah.
is, like
Right.
or one of the Florida studs, something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
those two guys, I remember watching that game, and it was the most tight that I've ever felt like watching the game
Hmm.
because everything just a guy gets on first, and it's like this could change the game.
That was a threat. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that
like
was a threat. Yeah. Hmm.
and it I think it was we ended up winning 2-1.
Yeah.
But like it was like Jonathan Gray's stuff that night. Like I don't think
Was
people will
filthy.
remember that. It was just
No, it's filthy.
crazy good. And I
Yeah.
remember being in a text thread with my dad. My dad was like, we're not able to hit this guy. And I'm like, this guy's
Mhm.
got
Yeah.
absolutely crazy stuff. Like
Right. Right.
this is stuff that we shouldn't hit. Right.
Yeah.
Like this is a
I
major
mean,
league pitcher.
yeah, it translates. Both guys are still pitching in the major leagues 10 years later.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
To
Yeah.
look back at that too and to see the careers of these two guys still. But yeah, Aaron Nola, we knew who Aaron Nola was.
We did.
So that was one of those games where it was just like it's so memorable to me. The struggle of the game, and it's like a 2-1 game is one of my most
Mhm.
memorable games for a super regional. It's crazy,
Yeah.
but it was
Yeah.
just there was so much talent on the field too with LSU. The 2013 team was just crazy
Oh,
talented,
yeah.
and
Absolutely.
talk about a team that could have. I mean, it's just like they didn't translate to Omaha in the new park or anything too. Like
Oh, man.
hit so
Just
many
that,
fly balls.
Well, I mean, they hit a lot of home runs. They just didn't get out of the ballpark. Christian Barr
Yeah.
hit 4. They just didn't leave because
Yeah.
Oklahoma. I mean, that and that I think that was that. I hate that it happened to us, but college baseball was in danger at that point because they had
Mhm.
taken offense so completely out. Like you can't play all year one way and then go to Omaha because look, UCLA will tell you. You talk to any of the
Yeah.
guys that are on that pitching staff, their pitching strategy going into that World Series against LSU was throw it 85 miles an hour, upper thigh, let them hit it as far as they can. They're not getting it out of here.
Yep.
There was one home run hit in that College World Series. One.
Wow.
One. The bats were dead. The balls were dead. The new stadium sits down,
Mhm.
kind of in that muggy, right there above the river. And
Yeah.
there was just no carry. It was an absolute, it was a shame what happened because LSU hammered the ball against UCLA
Yeah.
and just was just a bunch of loud outs. So that woke a lot of people up to, all right, we've taken it too far.
Mhm.
96, 97, we talk about, the weapons that they were swinging at the plate. Obviously, something needed to come off of that, but they swung it so hard to the BB core era where 13 was too much. Like that
Yeah.
wasn't fun.
Well, I think they brought
Baseball, base.
yeah, College World Series. I mean, at Rosenblatt at Omaha, they brought in the fences at one point too.
They did
That still didn't make a difference, I'm so interested to see how it's going to be this year. Like this year,
with the balls. The balls are juiced a
yeah,
little bit this
the
year.
balls are
Yeah,
juiced. Like we all know,
yeah,
the balls are juiced.
yeah. And I'm okay with that.
I am
I
too.
mean,
I love it.
chicks dig the long ball, Matt. I mean, it's. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, these pitchers have gotten so good. And we could probably do a whole nother talk about what you feel about the shift and the outlawing of that.
Right.
I'm a huge proponent of outlawing the shift. Okay,
Hmm.
because baseball's hard enough. And to me, baseball is a reward game. If you put a good swing on a ball. If you find a if your barrel finds the ball, you need to have a highest percentage that you can to be rewarded for that. You still may hit it right at somebody, and that's baseball. That's
Right.
baseball. But if you put a damn good swing on a ball, you don't need to have four guys over there cutting those chances down of getting having success. That's killing the spirit of being rewarded. If a pitcher makes a mistake, you put a good swing on it, you need to have a higher opportunity to be rewarded. These pitchers are good enough where, when they're shifting over like that, and they're breaking you off inside to a lefty and you've got everybody sitting over in right field, you can't hit that ball the other way,
Right.
right? So we got to give these guys an opportunity that if they make a good swing that they can be rewarded for that.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's another thing I'm interested in seeing in Omaha, especially if we get to Omaha, is
right.
we are not a small ball team by any
We're not.
means.
No, we're not.
And if that ballpark does play big like it
Hmm.
normally does, how are we going to adjust and how are we going to play into that?
Yeah,
I'm interested in seeing that. I mean, I think we have some guys that um, can hit for base hits if they really wanted to, but that
yeah.
I don't think that that's really the game plan most of the time. I think we're looking for 2 runners and 3-run home runs, things like that.
It's not, but Johnson is he's an offensive coach and he's a situational guy. You've seen the willingness to lay it down if
Yeah,
he
and
needs to. Yeah,
he's done well in Omaha, in
absolutely,
Arizona. So yeah,
absolutely.
I would trust that as
Yeah,
well. I just don't
yeah.
see it out of this team necessarily, but
No,
um,
no.
I just what I'm afraid of is we get to Omaha and then all of a sudden it's lights out because we just can't get it out of the park.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
all right.
mean, with us, it's going to all be based around our pitching. That's the key.
Mhm.
If we keep guys off of the base paths via walks and hit batters, we're going to have a chance in every ball game we're in.
Well, I love the fact that guys. I mean, to me, we have a solid three now.
We did.
I mean,
Hurd looked
we
fantastic.
yeah, and I really didn't. I didn't trust Floyd or Hurd.
Uh,
Really going into the Georgia weekend almost.
yeah,
So it's like they've come on. I feel like Cooper, Ackenhausen, those are guys you can trust coming out of the pen.
yeah,
Gavin Guidry's got so much like bravado coming out of the bullpen
yeah,
now. Like it's a
yeah,
guy that you really want to look like that as a closer.
yeah. He wants
Just
that
gets you
role.
some outs. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
we need guys that want the ball. Like
yeah,
it didn't seem like they did in the middle of the
yeah,
season.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They don't look scared out there for sure. And I think that you found that for sure with Hurd. I think that he is kind of really subtly because when he's on, man, He doesn't have the overpowering stuff with the fastball that Skeens has, but when his breaking ball's hitting, look out. He's
I,
tough.
when he is on, he may have. I mean, it's hard to say that with Skeens, but he
Mm,
may have the best stuff. Like
yeah,
his
it's
stuff can play in the majors.
100% can play in the majors. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's tough. Anytime you can get movement out of that and throw it, man, his willingness to throw that pitch three
Hmm.
two and time. I mean, yeah, that
That's
plays a
tough.
long time. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So very, very much wanting to see those guys, especially if they can get past the supers and how they, we may be facing, some obviously some other aces going down the line. I want to see how they compared to some of these other teams. And, you would think that our offensive lineup will be better than other teams' offensive lineups.
Hmm.
So if your pitching can kind of match up with the other team's pitching, and that's what
Yeah,
these teams are playing us, like pitching us off and stuff sometimes with Skeens, and I
yeah,
feel like they can't really do that as much anymore just because we have a couple other guys behind us.
sure.
Um, all right, getting back to some other regionals. Another one that I was thinking about the other day was the 1996 regional, and another 16 regional. And I have
Yeah,
some 16 regional stories too. My dad used to get the books of the regionals,
six.
and we
That's right. It was six, wasn't it? Yeah,
yeah, six, and we would go to it was 8 16 regionals, so it was
yeah,
48 teams back then.
yeah,
But we would go to every game,
yeah,
and it was blistering hot. Like
yeah,
you couldn't get enough like water or Coke or whatever it was.
yeah.
Um, but I remember sitting in the stands, and I don't remember who was even playing. I think it was like Ohio State was in the regional, and Providence was in the regional.
Hmm.
And Providence had they had a first baseman who had my number, and I played first, and I was like, oh my god, this is going to be my favorite player for the whole
Yeah,
regional. So we watched all the Providence games, and then one game, and like I said, it was this Ohio State game. The Providence team comes and sits in right field, right behind me. We're
yeah,
right down the right field line, and my dad turns around and says, "Hey, this is my son's favorite player, the first
yeah,
baseman." And he comes
yeah.
down, he starts talking to me, he's showing me his mitt and everything. They give me a ball, they sign the ball, and it was like, this is the coolest stuff ever, man.
That's
Like
so cool.
this
That's
stuff
so
doesn't
cool.
happen anymore,
No,
especially
no.
with these 4 team regionals.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
these teams were just sitting in the stands watching
Hmm.
games and cutting up with people. They loved it. Like
Yeah.
teams from like the Northeast that never had
Oh
played
yeah.
against anybody before coming down here, and they just ate it all up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I always remember teams that would come down here, and even the Irvine regional, like
Hmm.
how those teams would get like standing ovations from Alex Box crowd and stuff like
Oh
that,
yeah.
just because of how hard they played and they
Yeah.
appreciated it and they
Hmm.
loved it too. So
Yeah.
those are memories that I remember. But also the '96 regional, it was the Warren Morse year. Obviously, everybody
Oh yeah.
remembers that. But
Oh yeah.
we won the final of the our Baton Rouge regional against Georgia Tech. We beat them 29-13, and
Yeah.
we scored 18 runs, and I think it was like the sixth or the seventh, just in one inning. And we had, this is the craziest stat I ever remember, we had 12 doubles in a row in that game.
It's crazy.
And I think it was like 4 pitchers came in or something like that, and
Yeah.
we just cranked them out.
Yeah.
And I, people don't remember that when that's the gorilla ball, but like we weren't hitting that many home runs in that game. We were just hitting doubles off the wall
Yeah.
probably. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you had Furnace and you had all these guys that were
Yeah.
just complete monsters. And like you said,
Yeah.
they had assault weapons in their hands.
Yeah.
Uh,
Not to mention that you couldn't get a decent pitcher to come to college back then. I mean, it
no,
was
and if you
my
threw a
buddy.
4 or a 5 ERA, you're good. Like,
Oh man, I mean, college is where your ERA went to die. I mean, the facilities and obviously the coaching and everything wasn't. I mean, say what you will. There was a day and a time where these guys' arms were just getting way overused.
yeah,
In college,
right,
and so there were if you were anything of merit and you were going to get drafted, and I mean, even back then, the top 10 rounds, you were gone. You never saw a college campus.
no,
So some of these guys that came through LSU and actually went into the majors, they did not come out of high school as these big prospects. But I mean, my buddy Chad Durbin will tell you. I mean,
hmm
he told Skip no way. He's like, man, love you. I'm a Baton Rouge guy. That I'd kill to be a Tiger, but
Yeah.
there's no advantage. I mean, I'm I'm getting drafted. It's I need to go start that career there. Now you're watching guys turn down money to come to college. I mean,
Right.
NIL changed the game, obviously, but because the facilities are going to be better than any minor league park you're going to play in.
Yeah.
The coaching is on the level, the instruction you're going to receive.
Hmm.
And then, I can't speak of other campuses, places, but in LSU, you got Tigerland. I mean, these guys want to come be students for a couple years. They
Yeah.
want to go to France. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
it's
and you
yeah,
mentioned that NIL
yeah,
does change it too, where
changes
they can
everything.
make
Yeah,
money here.
that's right.
But
That's
I
right.
mean, you said it just now. I mean, you get the quality pitching coaches that can come in here.
Yeah,
We got the freaking Minnesota Twins pitching coach to
yeah.
leave the Twins middle of the season and
Middle
come
of the
coach
season.
for us. Like,
That's right.
and they had a really good pitching staff at the time.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so I mean, yeah, we can get the best of the best just because there's so much care and budget in this
Yeah,
program that I
yeah.
mean, it's
A,
the
gu-
SEC. I mean,
a guy like Wes Johnson saw the light early on. He was kind of like the guys that took the live money. They saw the light early on.
mhm,
He saw what NIL was going to do, and he realized that he was going to have that quality of pitcher in college going forward, and that the compensation as a head coach, which I mean, we all have to know that that was going to be his goal.
sure,
Some guys just like Nick Saban, he just liked college better and was going to have the opportunity to work with this quality level of pitchers due to NIL. So he found a way, even in the middle of the season, to come make that move, and we see how he parlayed that into a head job in Athens. So yeah, I mean, college baseball is in a good spot as far as that goes. It really is.
I agree. I mean,
Yeah,
you just see the amount of SEC and ACC teams that are in even the supers, but really that we're like hosting regionals, and
right.
it's a little it is what it is. It happens every year, but they match up the teams with the supers, or you just so happen to have a couple of these teams that are having to play each other in the supers that really they could be in Omaha. They're Omaha caliber
Absolutely.
teams, and we just kind of
Yeah.
beat ourselves to get in
Well,
there.
you're going to see more and more of that because let's face it, I don't know if maybe the ACC, but the rest of the country, um, they're going to be a training. As long as NIL continues, that's just going to be a farm system for the SEC. I
Yeah.
mean, you go ball out at North Carolina State or go ball out at Minnesota for a year, and you got a spot in Baton Rouge
Yep.
that next year, right? I mean,
That was the
that's
first thing
that's
I
what it's going to
did.
be.
Like
Yeah,
the freshman All American team just came out, and that was the first thing I did. I started looking at players. I was like, oh, I could probably move over here, and
the
that's
kid
true.
from
That's
Nichols, the kid
Nickel
from Nicholls
State
State.
is
It'll
yeah,
shock me if he's not a Tiger next year. It'll shock me
exactly,
if he's not a
and
Tiger
and
next
he'll
year.
still be fighting for a rotation spot probably. So
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, Thibodeau and Baton Rouge. I mean,
yeah, right,
with a little
exactly.
NIL money thrown on top, it's just not going to be a hard decision. You can't blame any of these kids for wanting to play at
Not at
big
all.
spots. Yeah,
Not at
right.
all. I mean, you
Yeah,
see a guy like Tommy White, and North Carolina State's not a bad program at all. Like
no,
they were in the finals not too long ago, so it's
yeah.
the
They would have won. They would have won it that COVID had they not
I
had
agree.
they would have won that year. So
Yeah, I
they are
completely agree.
they're a quality program, but it's not the SEC. It's just
No, it's
not.
not.
It's not.
One of the craziest stats that I saw was that Texas, the entire state of Texas, there was no regional hosts in the state of Texas this year. There were 3 in South Carolina.
Man, I'm
Crazy
gonna tell
stat.
you, the biggest disappointment to me of the regional season was had Texas A&M advanced,
Hmm.
there would have been a situation where they were both 2 seeds, right? A&M and Texas.
Yes.
So the host of that super would have been done via sealed bid.
Yes.
And I could tell you who would have won that.
A&M.
Because that's how much they care. That's how much they hate
A&M
Texas.
will fork over some money if they want to.
There's no their bid might have been $1 million higher than Texas,
Yeah.
right? Because Texas is kind of the mindset of we're too good to really care that much, and A&M is like we don't care what it
We're
costs,
not
and we have
losing this
yeah.
bid is what
I mean,
they say.
A&M is making calls to cover the guys. I mean, that's walking around money for these guys. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? Like
Texas is Jay Monahan or the PGA, and A&M is the
correct.
Saudis.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic comparison right there. Texas thinks that they should be there because of who they are.
Yeah,
A&M's willing to pay for it.
I agree.
Yeah,
So
100%.
another seal bid, I think, was the Southern Miss in Tennessee. Southern Miss won the bid. They outbid Tennessee for the regional, which is nuts.
Man, I'm going to tell you, Tennessee baseball. If you followed my Twitter at all last year, I rode Vitella, and I'm not going to stop because they brought it back a notch this year.
Yeah, they did.
I'm a big believer in superstition and the baseball gods and this and that. And I said it all last year. You don't get baseball's long, right? Baseball is not a single game or a super. Baseball is long, and it's about the years and longevity. And you don't go act like they did have anything good happen to you for quite a while. Okay, they're gonna have to do penance for the way they acted that year. So
Mhm.
anything that happens to them, that like getting bounced last year out of their own super,
Right.
right? Didn't even make it to Omaha. They had a
Right.
tough year this year, and you've noticed they have dialed the antics way down this year. Nobody liked all that stuff. I'm telling you, I went to a bunch of camps and heard coaches, and there were some players that were starting to kind of emulate that in high school youth baseball,
Yeah.
and coaches would tell them straight up. I heard one say, talking to a bunch of 15-year-olds, he said, if you think that anything they're doing is cool, you're not going to last very long in this game.
Yeah.
So Tennessee's got their own, they made their bed. The fact that Southern Miss would outbid them for a regional is hilarious. That's
Yeah.
that's very Tennessee.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Golden Eagles, they take baseball seriously.
They
That's
do.
going to be a tough one.
They'll
Although
throw
Tennessee's
they'll
not.
throw Tanner Hall about 400 pitches probably this weekend. So
100%. And if he grew up playing travel ball in Mississippi, he's well prepared for that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So another thing about Tennessee, and you said this about not wanting to emulate. I found that a lot of teams are emulating Tennessee's antics this year,
You think?
more so this year than normal, and
Uh-huh.
it even LSU.
Yeah.
Maybe not so brazen like Tennessee was, and so
Yeah. That's
classic
what I
like
mean.
Tennessee was,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're seeing a lot more chirping out there than normal.
I made
Um,
that comment. I was sitting above the dugout, and LSU chirps. Jared Jones chirps from the time the game starts.
yep.
I mean, they do.
And you're going to
Again,
see
it's
it this weekend because Kentucky
absolutely.
chirps back too. So
Absolutely. It's not the double burden and the Vitello chest
no,
bumping umpires. It's not. That was what I don't mind a little bit. That's the fun of the game to me.
yeah.
That I'm okay with kids being kids. It was the Tennessee just took it over the top last year.
Well, I just thought it was crazy when you see a guy from Clemson running from the outfield, probably talking crap to Tennessee,
That was
and gets
terrible.
tossed. And
That's an ump
I was
show.
like, you're
That's
going
an
to
ump
toss the
show.
guy talking trash to Tennessee? I'm sure
That's an ump
Tennessee's
show.
talked trash to this guy 10
Yeah.
times over.
As long as baseball will exist, there's always going to be that one ump that needs to make the game about him.
Exactly.
And that's what that guy was doing. He needed to make that game. There was absolutely nothing that kid could have said that deserved him to be tossed
Like,
out of
what
a
are we in the
regional ball
12th
game.
inning? Come on, bro.
Oh my
Like,
God,
chill out.
man. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. You make contact. There's physical contact with an ump, something like that. Worthy things to get thrown out, but chirping, come on, dude.
Yeah.
It's not. The game's not about you. You're if you're doing your job, you're invisible during the game. Be that way.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So hopefully there's not a lot of that this weekend. Now, the Jared Jones home run against Kentucky, I'm sure will be played on TV a few times
Yeah.
during the regional.
Yeah.
There was a couple of moments where I think it was I think it was the shortstop that made a couple of motions to LSU, and he was doing the Tommy Tanks folding the arms
Yep. Yep.
motion
Yep.
to them a few times. So I'm feeling like this one's going to be a little bit more heated. And I think the Kentucky regional in itself, whenever they came out of that regional, there was a lot of talking going on. And there was they dog piled at the end of their regional, which is crazy. But that sounds very Kentucky baseball too. So
that's very Kentucky baseball.
yeah,
I
you
mean,
haven't been here. It's good. It's cool.
Yeah.
I remember my
Right.
first beer, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I remember my first party. Absolutely. Absolutely. And good for them. Look, I mean, again, that is part of the fun. Baseball is a game, even for a purist like me, where the whole stiff upper lip, never show any emotion. Let the kids be kids and have fun. I'm
I
good
agree.
with that part. The umps just keep it under control. But the chirping, let them have it.
Yeah, and not only keep it under control, but can we please keep the reviews down to a minimum? And if there is a review and it is so obvious call, why does it still have to take 3 minutes for the
Make
review
it
to
quick.
come back? Like,
Make it
we all
quicker.
know
Yeah.
that guy's safe after a
Yeah.
second. Like,
Right.
just come off of the headphones and say he's safe. Like, you're
Right.
killing
Right.
all the momentum sometimes. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's what I don't
Absolutely.
want. I don't want somebody kind of like, we had that with Ty Floyd. I think that was against Auburn, where it was just,
The offensive timeout. He called an
yeah,
offensive timeout. Yeah.
yeah, basically.
That's. Come on. What are you doing
I
right
know.
there? Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, don't want that to happen.
But if I'm standing in that third base coaching box, brilliant. I mean,
Yeah,
that's 100%. I
that
mean,
it feels like a
I've done
Jay
it.
Johnson move too. Jay Johnson's the king of those
I've
moves.
done it managing games before too, where there has been a bunch of momentum in the other dugout, and you literally just go out and talk until the ump tells you to quit, and then keep on, because then the fan focus kind of gets on you, and
Hmm.
you can kill a rally that game, or in a coach's mind you do. So I mean, I get the gamesmanship, I get what he was trying to do, but
Yeah,
yeah, like you said on the reviews, like, he's safe. Let's play ball.
exactly. So,
Yeah,
looking forward to this weekend. You're going to be out there.
man, I am gonna be at the first one on Saturday, and then see where
Okay.
we go from there.
Yeah. So hopefully no rain on Saturday.
That's right.
The Skeens weather. We'll have to make that on Twitter, like the Skeens weather report, brought to you by
Absolutely.
Bank of England Mortgage, something like
Bank of
that.
England Mortgage, absolutely, yeah. Paul Skeens would be my starting guy until an hour up to the game, and subject to
Yeah.
change. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
If
just
I see something moving in, I'll bang you and push you
hold
to
the
some in
ball in your
heartbeat.
hand.
That's
I'm
right.
not. Don't throw it until I tell you
We're
to start
yeah,
throwing it.
yeah. May get loose, but we're not going to get you hot until we know what's happening. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's right.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. We appreciate you coming on, Patrick.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, we'll do another one maybe in Omaha, hopefully. So we can kind of get you back on again. Again, Bank of England Mortgage, big sponsor of the show. We appreciate Patrick. Here's all his information: boesouthernstates.com. Give him a call, and we appreciate your time with us today, my friend.
All right, brother.
We'll talk to you soon. All right, buddy.
I enjoyed it, Matt. Thanks, bud.
All right, talk to you soon, man.
See you soon.
All right, bye. Appreciate Patrick for joining us. Great sponsor of the show. Also want to give a big shout out to our other sponsors. We have River Cities Total Maintenance, River Cities NOLA-AC.com. That's 504-841-3300. Also, Bocock Brothers Cigars, BocockBrothers.com, hashtag BeCocky. And On Top Design, you can reach me at ontopdesignbr@gmail.com. We appreciate everybody for joining us. Appreciate everybody that logs in on the Twitter and messages me there. Social media is still rocking, so ask me any questions, anything that you guys want us to talk about in the future for LSU sports. Please let me know. We're more than willing to go back in the time machine and kind of look at some of those older games or older seasons, kind of relive them again. So we appreciate everybody again. Again, it's been One Team, One Podcast. Logging out.